The idea of biobanking, it's coming from two main words, bio and banking. Most people are familiar with the idea of banking, maybe keeping money in a bank or keeping some blood in a bank, for instance. It's also a form of biobanking. So biobanking, but from a research perspective, from a biomedical research perspective, biobanking describes the idea of, or the act of storing biological materials. You get these materials, you process them, you store them, and then you distribute them for future research as necessary. So, by biological materials, I mean materials, it could be blood or blood fractions, it could be tissue from an organ, and of course, accompanying these biological materials, you need appropriate records. It could be clinical records, it could be images, it could be other materials that will make these materials or the use of these materials meaningful. Because without this additional relevant data set, you cannot make adequate research use of the materials. So biobanking in a nutshell, it's the idea of storing, receiving, processing, and storing, and then distributing biological materials for research purpose. So neurobiobanking describes the banking of biological materials of neural origin, and this could be a whole brain, or could be part of a brain obtained during surgery, maybe a biopsy, or obtained at autopsy.
What we really are trying to say is that these organs can be donated after death and do not need to be donated at the time the person is alive. Although sometimes when you have a transplant, or for instance a kidney transplant, you might donate an organ when the person is alive because you have two kidneys and you could still survive with one kidney. But most of the organs that are required for biobanking are coming from people who are no more alive and wouldn't use these organs for anything.
Biobanking implies the brain, that is, the process whereby when a person dies, the person's brain is removed and kept for storage and research purposes. It can also be preserved in the fridge and later used for the purpose of research. This is what neurobiobanking is.
It also includes the cerebrospinal fluid, that bathe the brain and the spinal cord, serve as lubricants and cushioning them. It may also include even neuroimages, MRI, CT scan, and of course the accompanying clinical data sets, that you obtain from individuals from which you are obtaining these biological materials.
One of the tools we use is data that we collect from patients, biospecimens that we collect from patients, and these data and biospecimens help us to answer new questions and find innovative ways, better ways, more precise ways, more efficient ways, more effective ways of tackling the burden of stroke and cardiovascular diseases by way of new prevention methods, by way of new treatments and new rehabilitation intervention, and new ways of surveillance, of monitoring the burden of this disease, which is very prevalent and very, very common and affecting so many people.
Chukwu Rosemary Chiamaka from Imo State. I live in Ibadan. I'm currently undergoing stroke therapy in University College Hospital in Ibadan. It maybe thrice now. I have stroke. So I went to right posterior knee. I fall down. But before I fall down, I noticed that my leg was weak. I was feeling weak. So I managed to enter the exam hall I wrote when I want to submit it. I noticed that I can't walk. So, but I can't speak again. So, after some days, I speak. So my eyeball was coming out gradually. So, and the tears was coming out. So I went to eye clinic. The pressure was too much in the eye. Even I can't control myself. My face was my face was shifting to the one side. They admitted me. My BP was 220, and the down one is 140. So it was very high. They admitted me. Starting there, I went for CT scan, and the infarct of the brain.
The thing is that one can find someone who is not feeling fine. For instance, someone who has stroke. So, what has caused this problem of stroke?
What causes the stroke? Muscular not stroke.
Maybe they have done a CT scan or an MRI. The aim is to know the cause of that stroke. So the brain is the place to go in search of this type of things.
The chances of developing a stroke in a lifetime is 1 in 4, and hypertension affects 1 in 2 to 3 adults in Africa. So these are really major issues that deserves a lot of attention.
When it comes to brain biobanking, our aim is really to improve stroke care when it comes to prevention and control of stroke within our society. That it's really a big problem currently, and it will enable us to understand why stroke happens in certain groups of people and doesn't happen in another group of people.
After that, I have a stroke in the sick bed again. The BP was not going down. So I was suffering from BP. I was suffering from the pain of surgery. So I lose my left kidney in the hospital, and now I live with one.
We can stop this from happening. Then we say, okay, how can we talk to people? Say, if we do this, we can stop stroke from happening.
We understand that, I mean, in our setting, especially in the African setting, like Ghana and Nigeria, where we have very strong family bonding and connections within the family, it's important that we do everything together with the family, and then we follow some of the family principles that we live within. But it's also important that some of the decisions we take when it comes to, for instance, brain biobanking or brain donation, and be able to donate certain specimens, it might not really benefit us directly, but it might also have some effects within the family, and it might benefit somebody in the family.
It's going to benefit the community. It's going to benefit people. So it's a welcome idea. But the problem is, akwai ignorance that I've told you, akwai jahilci. Kache azo ayi. Very easy, someone will now use that one and say, no, you bring religion inside, shikenan, they will not spoil it. But if there's a kind of creating awareness, that we now sat with the religion people, the community leaders, sell this idea to them, to tell them that these things is going to benefit people.
The traditional or the conventional way or model of thinking is that, oh, if there's a medical problem, then you just need doctors to solve it. No, now we know that's not the case. Now we know that if there's a problem, you need everybody to solve that problem.
Because just like the Yorubas say that ojo apa kò lè jojú ẹran láéláé, meaning if you have a scar, it can never be as smooth as your skin anymore. And so it's better for us not to have it at all. And that is why we are saying we need community members to partner with us so that we can do further in-depth work into the parts of the body, the brain that they are giving onto us.
It will definitely benefit when it comes to stroke care and prevention, and help us to design new management care for our patients with stroke.
If you imagine that the burden of hypertension or this cardiovascular disease affects 1 out of every 2 or 3 members of the populace, then you know you must be able to communicate with everybody across the entire life course, from childhood to adolescence to adulthood and all of that, through all the way. You must be able to communicate, and therefore you must speak in the language they understand. And if you want resources to be allocated, made available to tackle this, then you must be able to communicate with the policy makers. So it then becomes something that is cross-cutting and that involves everybody. And so it's important to examine the ethical, legal, social implications, not just the biomedical angle, to be able to have a 360-degree understanding of the underlying factors and the interventions that are required to make a real change in terms of curbing this burden.
Ina so mutane su gane cewa cire kwakwalwa a yi bincike hanya ne mai kyau wanda zai hana jama'anmu kamuwa da irin ciwon shanyewar jiki. Saboda idan once somebody has facial stroke, she can for life, he cannot recover at all. But amma yanzu me za a yi wanda zai hana mutane samun this problem shine a yi research, a bari ana yin research, ana gano menene matsalan shi, ya ne za a samu magani a hana abin.
Mo fẹ́ bẹ̀ yín pé kẹ́ fi ọpọlọ yín sílẹ̀ tẹ́ bá ní àǹfààní láti ran ọmọ ẹnì kejì lọ́wọ́, torí pé tá bá ti ṣe aláìsí, gbogbo ẹ̀yà ara ló máa padà jẹrà.